Hey guys, how are you? Happy Thursday. We are almost through another full week of remote learning, and sorry I had to grab some markers real quick, but like I said, it's Thursday. Here we are. Today we're going to be looking at chapters 7 through 9 of Woods Runner. Now, I hope that you guys have done all the reading up to this point, because there's been times in live meetings or from the responses you've given me, I can tell you haven't read. So if you haven't read up to chapter 7 yet, please do that. And then you have to read 7 through 9, okay? Because I can tell based on your work who reads and who doesn't. I have people telling me about Samuel, but we're not even, when we've done lessons about George versus George. Or I have people telling me still about the Scarlet Stocking Spy instead of talking to me about Woods Runner. We're working on Woods Runner, okay? And I'll even write it over here. So that everyone knows, okay? And today is one of the lessons that we are going to be talking about Samuel. But he's only going to be part of the story today, okay? Because we know this already, but Woods Runner is historical fiction. And we've talked about historical fiction many times, but I'll refresh your memories, is that historical fiction is a story that blends together fictional parts of history or science, whatever it might be, and mixes it with a fiction text, meaning there's characters, and the author includes these characters in the time period of history, in this case, okay? So what Gary Paulson does that's different from a lot of other historical fiction texts is that he gives you a page of historical information and then goes into the story, okay? So if you haven't noticed, sorry, I gotta get Woods Runner. At the beginning of every chapter, there's a little blurb before the chapter starts. That small little blurb is the historical context that Gary Paulson is giving you before you read the chapter. So for today, we're going to have the world, and then we're going to read chapter 7. But then if you go back to chapter 6, the blurb, or the info page, we should call it, is about the British. And then what's said on these info pages then influences what the next section of the actual story is going to be about, okay? So you have to you have to read the historical page for context, and we've mentioned that word context before, but it means background, okay? And then the second thing you have to do is read the chapter, which this is the historical fiction. Okay? And I'm going to be showing you guys how he blends these together, or how you can use the historical page to help you read the rest of the text. Okay? So, I'm going to start off by showing you the chart you're going to be working with today. It's going to be Handout 25A. 25A. Okay? And on Handout 25A, I need a new blue marker, or a new any sort of marker in general. Go with green. You have two columns. You have informational text, and then examples in Woods Runner. And if you take a look, the first informational text that we read is the world, which is the informational text before chapter 7. So everything I've said to this point makes sense. Now, I'm going to read you guys page 46, the world. But the sentence we're going to be focusing on is Native Americans fought on both sides. And if you're confused on what both sides means, both sides of the Revolutionary War. So they fought for the rebels and they fought for the British. So, page 46, the world. And if you're following along on the PDF, it's going to not be page 46, but it's going to be wherever you see chapter 7, and you'll see the heading, the world, as well. The War for Independence very rapidly turned into something like a world war. Native Americans fought on both sides, and Spain got involved on the American side, or at least its navy did, meaning that Spain sent ships to help fight the British, because that's what your navy is, the ships that your country has. Germany sent the mercenaries known as the Hessians. The French were a staunch ally of the United States, with their navy keeping England from resupplying her troops and distracting it from the American navy. So basically, the French sent ships over, they sent their navy over to A, block the British ships from getting more supplies, then also to distract the British ships from attacking the American ships. They were busy fighting the French ships. So a lot of countries came to rally around the United States and offered to help them. The English Navy, in fact, was so preoccupied with the French that it could not focus on the American problem. So basically, they were so busy fighting the French that the Americans were starting to just slowly kind of chip away and beat them on the water in the ships, okay? So now we start chapter 7. And when we start chapter 7, we're going to be looking for examples of Native Americans fighting on both sides, okay? And now you're going to be looking for evidence of where they fight on the rebel side and the British side. And the thing is, I keep saying chapter 7, but this is actually going to continue for chapters 7 through 9. I'll put that in here. This is for chapters 7 through 9, okay? Now, the examples in Wizarder. I'm going to read parts of chapter 7, and if we find anything that shows that Native Americans were fighting on both sides, or on any given side, we will write that in our chart. If you don't have the text up, pull it up now. It's in the lesson. Here we go. He had been running for 40 hours now. Just as he left Draper's Crossing, he passed a cornfield that the attackers had tried to burn. Some ears of corn had roasted. Hunger took him like a wolf, and he grabbed a half-dozen ears, jamming them in his clothing. He ate as he walked, letting the sweet corn juice slide down his throat and into his stomach. The hunger was so intense that eating the corn made his jaws ache. The food made his body demand water. He hadn't taken time to find a well or where one was. When he came to a small creek, he stopped to drink. So basically, he's at the point where he's not eaten in days. He finds this corn that's been ironically burned and is now deliciously cooked, so he's eating it. The water was muddy where the creek crossed the trail, so he moved off into the thick underbrush 20 yards upstream to where the creek ran clear. He knelt to put his mouth to the water, and this act saved his life. Because obviously if you don't drink water, you can't live. His lips had no sooner touched the water than he heard men's voices. It was a native tongue, and they were loud and laughing. There was 2 of them. They had come upon Samuel. They surely would have taken or killed him. Samuel kept his head near the ground. Those small holes in the brush, he could see them from the waist down. They wore leather leggings and high moccasins, and each carried a musket in one hand. He could see the butts hanging down at their sides, not their butts, but the butts of their guns, the back of the gun. And either a coopstick or a killing lace in the other. Both of the men had fresh scalps hanging on the shafts they carried. For the first time in his life, Samuel wanted to kill a man. So, that gives us an example right there. That Samuel sees NA. I'm going to write NA for Native Americans when drinking water who are armed and carrying scalps. Now, it doesn't say which side they're fighting for, but if they are carrying these fancy guns, that shows me they're fighting for the British. And obviously, Samuel can tell, and since he gets so angry, he can tell that they're fighting for the British as well. The overwhelming rage that he had begun to feel while following his mother's small footprints as she'd been saving aged Jerky along the trail was like a hot knife in his brain. If there had only been one, he could have done it, but he carried no tomahawk. All he had was a skinning knife, and his rifle fired only one shot. After that, the one he didn't shoot would turn on him before he could reload. With only a knife to defend himself, he'd have almost no chance. So he's really having these thoughts of shooting one of these Native Americans because he's still so angry about what happened to his settlement and that his parents had been taken, and that the Native Americans are partially behind it because they're working with the British, okay? So he waited until they were gone out of sight, then staying low and moving slowly, he went back to the trail. Why had the men come back? Whatever the reason, 2 men alone would not backtrack too far into potential hostile country. If there were any kind of force after them, they would want to keep moving. So again, this shows they're working with the British. They're going back to where they once were, okay? You guys are going to continue to read chapter 7, and chapter 7 is short. It only goes another page and a half, or 2 pages, I should say. Then you're going to hit chapter 8. And for chapter 8, your historical page is warfare. The second part of the chart is taken from warfare. It took a special kind of courage to stand stand ready, meaning standing ready to fight the British. So it means that the rebels and the people that Samuel is working with, and Samuel himself, are all very brave and courageous. So you guys would then read the pages of chapter 8 and even chapter 9, whatever it might be, that apply to this quote, and you would add them. If you're reading chapter 8 and see something that applies to the Native Americans fought on both sides, if you see evidence maybe of the Americans fighting with the rebels, I should say, fighting with Native Americans, put it on the chart. The more details you can fit in here, and I'm telling you there will be, wink, wink, the better of a grade you get and the more complete job you will do. Now, we are at almost 13 minutes into this video, and I'm going to do something I have not yet done. This is going to be a test to see who is actually watching the video, okay? I am going to do something that you guys are going to have to report back on the stream about. And the first person that does so will receive a prize pack. Now, I need to find something just really simple. Let's do this. If you're watching this video still, and you are the first person to write the color of the 2 markers I'm holding in my hand right now, you can see the 2 markers, and just in case you guys can't see it, or if there's anybody who's colorblind I don't know about, or anybody who's gone blind since coronavirus, it's purple and pink. If you post the words purple and pink on the stream, and you are the first person to do so, you will receive a prize pack. Okay? And you guys will also get a shout out. Anybody else who sees this and knows what I'm talking about and comments on their answer, the colors, you too will get some sort of prize and or shout out, okay? I will see you guys during our live today at 1 o'clock. And remember, post these 2 colors somewhere. The first person that posts these 2 colors somewhere gets a prize pack. Anybody else who does so, who makes it to the 14-minute, almost 15-minute mark of this video, I will think about sending you a prize too, depending on how many people actually do it. This is a test. Don't screw it up. I'll see you guys at 1 o'clock for our live, and that's it. Bye.